Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
I'm Mark Hamilton. I'd like to call to order the September 25th, 2025 meeting of the Community and Economic Development Authority. The first item of business will be the roll call. Joyce, would you mind the honors, please?
Sure. Mario is out today with an excuse. Hamilton?
Here.
Hardy? Here. Maldonado?
Here.
Potts? Here. Sanders?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll move forward to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the August 28th, 2025 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Okay. Then we will we'll accept the motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Motion to approve.
Okay, I got two motions to approve. So, okay, I've got two motions to approve in a second.
Normally
so
don't.
I heard Andy Potts
Sorry.
first, second by Joe Maldonado. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we will move approval of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Item number 4 on the agenda, public appearances for non-agenda items. Do we have any folks in the room? There's nobody in the room except our committee and some presenters, so we will move forward from there.
Mark, I just wanted to acknowledge we've got 2 Housing Advisory Committee members.
Okay.
Right now we've got Michelle via Zoom, and then Jenny's 2 for 1 on CETA and housing.
Okay.
So just wanted to acknowledge that.
So recognized. All right.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution R-17825. Mike and Joyce.
You need a motion.
Oh, yeah, okay. We need a motion to approve the scope of services agreement between the city and Vanderwall for the motion in economic vision and strategy update with the cost sharing agreement between the city and Fitchburg Chamber. Okay, I heard a motion to move. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion to move by Joe Maldonado, seconded by Jenny Sanders. Discussion of the motion.
And Joyce is going to give us an overview to start out.
Okay.
Mike is going to take this one.
Okay.
No,
Somebody's going to give us an overview.
Sure. If you recall, back in 2012, we did a branding and economic development strategic plan with Vanderwall. In 2018, we updated that plan. Vanna has a sample over here. And so this resolution is to do an update to that plan because we've had a lot of changes since the last time we did the plan. I can give you a whole example from, the school district buying land to changes from COVID and the office market and just a whole host of things. So Mayor Radafrada had put some funds in the ARPA-TID closing, and our partners at the chamber has also brought funding, and so this is for a budget amendment to move some of our dollars from public information to our professional services to engage the services of Vanderwall to update the plan.
Okay.
And I would just chime in and add that not only will it be a refresh and an update to the plan, we've accomplished a lot since the last one, so we're going to kind of highlight and focus on what we've checked off the box, but a refresh and an update to it. And a couple of key points in there. One is we're looking for them to help us with a data dashboard that we would like to have on our website that just kind of highlights the economic activity and vitality of the city of Fitchburg, which we think would be really helpful on our website. And then also a marketing piece to kind of help us tell the Fitchburg story and do some proactive marketing out there in the community. The other thing that we're looking to incorporate is a developer roundtable where we'll be inviting developers, real estate folks, engineering, architects to kind of learn from them what's working well in Fitchburg, maybe where can we do some system and processes improvements or zoning ordinance updates. So that would be part of the scope of work as well. We requested that we go sole source just because we've worked with Vanderwall twice. They know our community well. We've accomplished a lot with them. Yes, and very efficient. We're not starting over for it, so it's kind of taking the plan to the next third generation level. So we're excited. It would launch in October, and then there would be a kickoff kind of session with the council, CETA, and then the chamber board on Thursday, November 20th. So I think maybe Joyce has already sent out a save the date, or if she hasn't, we'll have one coming out to you for that particular date. Thursday, November 20th.
And I'm not assuming that this is going to pass, but I figured I should start getting organized if it does. So it'll be at the library.
That's the one you told for 4 to 6 at one time. Was mentioned here before.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Question, you mentioned that there's going to be some discussion and looking at development and things like that. What would be a kind of a synergy between redevelopment resources and this, if there's kind of talk about zoning and development and stuff?
Yeah, I think there will be, we'll have a good draft of the plan, you know, with their research data, recommendations and everything. So
we're not
we'll be
doubling up
sharing
on
that with
paying.
Vanderwall to kind of, you know, review that information and have that context. And then both the housing plan and both the updated City in Motion is a precursor to help inform the comprehensive plan major update that our colleagues in the zoning department will be undertaking now that both neighborhood plans are approved, as well as the zoning code rewrite. They're going to start that process to issue a request for proposal for a consulting firm to guide us through both the major comp plan update and the zoning code rewrite. So we're in regular communication with our colleague, Deanna Schmidt, and what we do with the housing plan, as well as the City in Motion plan, will help inform those elements of the major comprehensive plan. A lot going on.
I just want to make another comment about Vanderwall. They worked with us on the North Fishatchery Road visioning, and as you can see, it's been very successful. We've got about I'd say 170 million either in the ground or planned redevelopment up there. So we really think that they know our community very well and have some great ideas. However, we did lose our lead person on that, Scott Harrington, and that's going to be some big shoes to fill. So.
Okay, are there any further comments or discussion on the motion?
Question.
Yeah, Andy.
So one of the tasks you have is for a priority project subgroup workshop. It says you'd have 3 subgroups to work on priority projects. I guess what do you envision as priority projects?
That is going to be part of our kickoff. We know for sure one of them is going to be the developer roundtable. But when we come to do our kickoff, we're going to talk about the strategic directives that we have and the initiatives and the action items, and we'll decide what other 2 areas we should focus on, and that will be where we'll have another group. If you recall, Andy, last time we did arts and culture, we did the school district, sports, and I don't remember what the other one was. So we haven't, that's yet to be determined.
Okay, and the developer roundtable counts as one of those, because it looks like they're two separate tasks in the task list.
Separated that out, so we got three strategic, and then we got the
Okay.
roundtable, so there were four.
Okay, thank you.
Page 7 or 8 of the packet, it kind of lists some subgroup ideas. They're including the ones that Joyce mentioned and some additional ones.
Okay, is there any further discussion or questions on the resolution and the motion before us? Hearing none, we will make a roll call. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Your resolution is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6 on the agenda is the hotel room tax. Mike or Joyce?
We don't really have any updates from the last meeting. We've got another quarter we got to wait for it to come in.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Then we'll move on to item number 7, which is our housing plan that has been getting a lot of attention. And I will say for the record, this group has done a lot of work that to get us to where we are. And our subcommittee met with them about 2 weeks ago before it went to council last night and asked them some very hard-hitting questions that they were able to answer. And we've got a good document working so far from my perspective. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
So I'm going to introduce our consulting team from Redevelopment Resources. So we have Christian Fish-Peterson and Dana Sarver. And so this is the first phase of the housing plan. So they'll be sharing information that they learned from the housing survey, from the stakeholder interviews, and then the forums. And I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Lorene. As she mentioned, I'm Kristen Fish-Peterson with Redevelopment Resources. Today we're going to share with you the information that we gathered from all the public input gathering that we conducted. And at the end of our presentation, we'll have a timeline to get us to across the finish line. So when we started this, we wanted to make sure we talked to people, and our team conducted over 30 interviews with a variety of stakeholders, including developers and contractors, realtors, public service providers, school district leaders, property managers, employers, large and small, public officials at the county and state level that represent Fitchburg, and healthy neighborhood property managers, as well as city staff. And I would like to say, if you have questions, please interrupt us as we go. Don't have to wait till the end. The outreach consisted of it was a multimedia outreach plan. We had, Lorene had postcards printed in English and Spanish, and they were distributed to event attendees, to businesses, to residential property managers, just in an intent to encourage participation in the survey. The QR code for the survey was on those postcards, and we really wanted people to respond to the survey. They were also sent to neighborhood associations and handed out at all the events. Lorene and I had an interview on FACTv, and there was information in the Fitchburg Star as well about this survey and the information that we were interested in gathering. We had some focus groups with the seniors, the Latino Chamber of Commerce, and with staff. And then we had some events that we went to and attended. The picture that's there is the day we spent at the splash pad, but in the morning that same day we were at Oasis Cafe, and in the evening we were at the Summer Resource Fair. So that was just a fun Fitchburg day for us. We were immersed in the community all day. We also had representatives of our team, and Lorene did a lot of work meeting with people in where they're at the grocery store, that La Hispania grocery store. Lorene and Dana went to Mount Zion Baptist Church, and Lorene spent time at Community Night Out and Parks Alive, Allied Park. So we really tried to get to people where they were, not just fling a survey out on social media or on the city's website and hope people respond. So when it comes to the survey, we did have the questions. The survey in advance was reviewed by staff and the mayor. And this group, the task force, the housing task force, also reviewed the survey and really spent a lot of time making sure we had the right questions so we could get the information that we needed The goals were to obtain a representative sample of households at various life stages and housing experiences and income levels. But what surveys really are helpful at is gauging political feasibility of potential recommendations. It's how are these results going to be met with when a decision comes before a body like yours or the city council to make a decision on something? How's the public going to react? That's really one of the highest values we get from a survey like this.
What do you mean?
So we gather secondary data. So we gather data from like the Census Bureau and things like that, and we can't really tell how that data is going to be responded to by people. But if we ask, and you'll see in some of the questions that we ask, for example, about lot size. What is the community's preference for lot size? So that would kind of indicate if more people are interested in large lots, that would kind of indicate there wouldn't be as much support for zoning that would support smaller lots, things like that. So we're trying to get a sense for how people feel about potential future decisions that might be made.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we did have 675 total responses, which is a statistically significant non-randomized population sample. That's what we were shooting for. I thought we had an excellent response. We have not seen a response to a survey that we've conducted in our work ever this high for a community. We had 500 residents respond to the survey and 166 non-residents, and then 9 people who chose not to tell us.
How do you determine what is statistically significant?
So there's a sample size calculation of what you need for a confidence level, various confidence levels and margins of error. So for a confidence level of 95%, margin of error of 5%, and if we did it based on households of relatively 14,500, we needed 375, and we got over 500.
And does that determination of statistically significance depend upon who's responding?
So it's not a random sample, like, we were depending on who was going to, like, how many people were going to respond, but rather than we couldn't make people respond.
I mean, if everybody from Seminole Forest and Seminole Hills responded, I think that would be a little different than if you had somebody, if the responses were coming from Three Fountains.
Yeah.
How do you balance that out in your statistical significance?
So we looked at a few categories, and you'll see the breakdown of age, income, whether they rent or own, that kind of thing. And so then we test, for example, when we get to the slide of who rents and who owns, how many people rent and how many people own, Dana ran, did we get a statistically significant sample of renters? So we kind of test it as we go.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The other one too, Kristen, is the school districts too. That kind of shows more the geographic dispersion there.
Yeah, and I'm just going to make one comment about the survey. When we were at the community night out and we were trying to get people to answer the survey, they told us they were kind of surveyed out by the city. So I think what they did was pretty phenomenal, because we could even get people to do it that night, even after they made that comment. So
yeah, and we can see when we could tell exactly when you posted a new post on social media, because we see as the responses come in each day. For example, if it went out on social media on a Tuesday, on Wednesday we'd have 30 responses, on Thursday we'd have 15, and on Friday we'd have 5. And then the next time you posted it, it would surge up again and it would come back down. So, we did put it out there as much as we possibly could. So as far as the resident profile geographically distributed, we had 43% of the respondents responding from the Madison School District, 28.6% that lived in the Oregon School District, and 26.6% in the Verona School District. So if you look at the distribution, I think that the highest number of responses were in the Madison School District, which represents probably the most densely populated portion of Fitchburg. As far as where people work, we asked the question, do you, of the residents, do you work in Fitchburg? 361 of them do not, and 138 said they did work in Fitchburg. The length of residency in Fitchburg I thought was very well distributed across all lengths of time, where we had 27% living in the community 1 to 5 years and 30% living in the community more than 20. I thought that was really balanced. As far as gender is concerned, we had more females than males. I think that doesn't surprise anyone that females would care to spend more time on this, but making some sort of assumption there. Fitchburg respondents by income level, we did have the highest number of respondents in the 150,000 or higher category, but the second highest was preferred not to answer, so we have no idea where that number, just over 20% of those folks fell from an income perspective. On the next slide, I guess we have the age breakdown by where they live, whether they own, rent, or live with somebody who owns or rents. So the 407 people that responded that own, we have, I say, a pretty good distribution between the age ranges, where you had 159 people that were over 60. However, you have a significant number of people that are 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 to 59. And I think it was kind of cool that 12 people who were 21 to 29 responded. We even had one 17 or younger respond who's living with, obviously, hopefully their parents. But of the 77 people who rented, you can also see a fairly even age distribution there. Skewing a little younger. How much do you pay monthly for housing? And this question was insinuated the household. How much does the household pay monthly? So the largest response was $2,000 or more, followed by preferred not to answer, and then $1,500 to $1,999. Which of the following issues are in most need of attention in your neighborhood? These were choices. They could choose all that apply, and these were the choices that they had. And on the next slide, we break down the other, since there were people that chose, over 160 people chose the other response. But issues in the neighborhood include streets needing repair. An issue is pedestrian bike infrastructure. We didn't specify what the issue was, whether there wasn't enough or it needed improvement. But the pedestrian and bike infrastructure was the next highest issue, and then traffic and crime and other public safety concerns. Of the other category, the largest response was that they love the neighborhood, so there were no issues. And the second largest response related to transportation. The question asked, we asked a question about the preferred lot size in new single-family neighborhoods. And I don't know if, Dana, you want to give more context to the question, or?
Sure, so each category had a description of what it was per square foot, but for the sake of the presentation, it was just a lot of noise. So the smaller lot sizes were 3,000 to 8,000 square feet. Medium lots were 8,000 to a third of an acre. Somewhat larger lots were half an acre to an acre. And then much larger lots were an acre or more.
So for single family, the preference for new single family neighborhoods was mostly medium-sized lots, but there were then somewhat larger lots and a number of people that said smaller lots.
I find it interesting, the density, the plus and the minus are the same, they're equal.
Right, I know. The reason for the preference, which was the open-ended response where they could tell you why they chose that. I think that they were justifying the larger lots for space, privacy, gardening. But then, yes, it was interesting that density larger or density smaller were evenly matched.
Yeah, that one had 307 open-ended questions that I meticulously categorized. And it was, if they liked density, it was because of the walkability and the access to transportation. If they didn't like density, it was because they felt like some of the newer developments were too close. Like the houses were, like you could share a cup of sugar across without going out the front door. So yeah, that's how I kind of broke that down.
The next question asked what the most important housing priorities were for Fitchburg, and they could choose up to 3. These were the answers they could choose from, and then on the next slide we have the other category broken down. But the most important housing priorities were available housing units, first-time homebuyer support, and affordable housing units. And we see available housing and affordable housing, or excuse me, affordable rental units, but we see available housing and affordable issues predominantly in every community that we serve when we do a housing study. I do want to say it's also important to note senior housing and smaller homes were got quite a few marks here. So then in the other category, important housing priorities, taxes, regulation, and fees, affordable single family, and then people just didn't know for sure what they thought was a priority.
Kristen, on that last slide, did you guys put a definition of transitional housing? So
Yes,
people knew what that was?
Yeah, every category had a paragraph essentially of what it was describing, so they would know what they were selecting. So Brad Sipple in the planning department helped us with that.
Okay.
How do you explain that there's 140 or what, 125 senior housing was most important, and yet senior housing was pretty far down on the list on the next one? What's the explanation behind that?
So oops.
You went too far.
Trying to go back.
Up, maybe?
There you go.
So here they could choose the as one of their 3, they could choose senior housing. And then if they chose 2, let's just say they chose 2 options, and then in the other category they wrote in something, people might have again chosen to write in senior housing. They might not have seen it on the first as an option, or they wanted to emphasize it. Mm-hmm. Can I choose senior housing 3 times of my 3 choices? Yeah. Does that make sense?
So there is no correlation.
Well, this was just a breakdown of the other responses. So when we look at this slide, slide number 15, what are the most important housing priorities? They might have chosen 2 here and other.
Mm-hmm. Okay, when they say the most important housing priority is senior housing, what does that mean? Does that mean independent, living alone? Does that mean living in a community with other independents? Does that mean assisted living?
Yes.
What does that mean?
The whole
I think all of it. When we did the focus group with the seniors, we had every income range represented in the room, and many people were interested in something that was physically accessible, so on a single story, with less maintenance, but then the level of support varied with their age, their income, their geographic desires.
Physical capabilities.
Yeah, their capabilities. So we didn't parse that all the way down. What we did understand is that there is space in the market for every range, every option. And so what we want to make sure is that there are options for seniors, whether they want to live independently or find a situation where they have more assistance and support.
Thank you.
So the next question on slide 17 asked if people were looking to move, what factors were most important to them, and they could select up to 3. The residents are represented in dark blue, the non-residents are represented in green, and unidentified chose not to identify are in that light blue. So location and price were the top factors that were important to them, followed by size and safety. On the next slide, challenges to finding and keeping housing. People needed to check all that they could check all that applied, and pricing was the predominant category there with the most responses, and then not enough available homes or apartments was the second highest challenge to finding and keeping housing, followed by it's hard to save for down payment or security deposit. I don't want to overlook the fact that condition of available homes was also selected by over 100 people. We really want to make sure that the existing housing stock is in good condition. So that will be a focus of a recommendation. And then breaking down that question, the challenges to finding and keeping housing, people who selected other didn't, most of them just said there were no challenges for them to finding and keeping housing, but taxes was a high second. So what kind of housing would better meet your needs? And they could check all that applied. And predominant answer here is a ranch style or one level home. And we heard that response in various forms throughout the interviews, the focus groups, which, unfortunately, ranch style homes or homes on one level take up a lot of real estate. So we got to deal with how do we create density, but also allow people to live on one level. So, it's cheaper to build up than out, but it's also, more accessible to not have stairs in your unit.
One couple I talked to at the senior focus group approached me and asked, what about a cottage court kind of situation? So a small ranch with, shared common kind of space and, a community feel, but no shared walls. And I was like, well, I will keep that in mind as part of our recommendation process. So
that's one of my favorite types of missing middle housing is a cottage court, because you can really maximize the independent living, freestanding independent living in a small area with that model. Mm-hmm. And I love the community.
And I feel like it also creates a little bit of a sense of community.
Right, I love that aspect of it.
In those little circles where neighbors know neighbors and there's a connection.
Yeah, and Lorene and your librarian met with some communities in the housing in healthy neighborhoods, and surprisingly, affordability wasn't their top priority. It was maintaining their sense of community, having those connections be consistent, so that because they depend on each other for childcare. And they have shared life experiences or shared geographic histories. And they just wanted green spaces for their kids to be able to play in. Yes.
So again, and the other responses, what kind of housing would better meet your needs? Most people said they're happy, they're not looking to move. But then some said larger lots and senior housing, others said single family starter homes and affordability. So this is just a breakdown of the other category, which had about 125 responses. So that is the data that we are sharing with you from the survey and the public information gathering. Where we're at now is Dana and I will take the secondary data that she's pulled from sources like the Census Bureau and other ESRI and other data sources we have access to, as well as all of the data we gathered from the survey and our interviews, and we then start strategizing. We'll be meeting with staff and going through programs that exist, programs that have been tried and failed, programs that we might want to try, and we'll be making recommendations including projects, programs, policy, and we will pull together a very detailed demand chart. The demand chart will be broken down by the number of units that we think the city can support from an owner-occupied and a renter-occupied standpoint. We'll also look at senior and workforce housing, and we may get into as granular as how big, how many bedrooms, you know, in rental, what's going to be your balance of studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. And do we break it down further? Affordable workforce, senior, market rate. We'll look at, you know, try to give you as granular a demand forecast as we possibly can, but we have a lot of factors that go into that we gather from the secondary data, the local MLS data that we got from Jenny. Thank you very much. And we combine all of that and shake it up, and we produce a set of recommendations at the end. And so that's what's going to be happening for the rest of September and October. In November, we'll be testing and refining and starting to present at committee level. In December, we'll bring it back here to CETA, and then we'll be presenting to the City Council in January.
Okay, are there any questions from the CETA members here? Or we also have Michelle from the Housing Advisory Committee. You're on Zoom there. Anybody have any questions for our folks?
I wanted to kind of just share out a little bit, kind of talk about some of those deep conversations that we had with folks. On my kind of focus to supplement what they were doing is really focus in the healthy neighborhoods. And one of the conversations or some of the themes that I heard was credit. And credit was a barrier for some folks to kind of even get into apartments. So one of the things that they asked is that if we could have some type of program here to kind of help them with credit repair was something that I thought was really interesting. Kristen or Dana, did you have any conversations that really kind of just stood out to you?
Yeah, when we were at the Mount Zion Baptist Church, there was I think he was a young guy. I have a really hard time gauging age, but he chatted with us for quite a long time, and his experience, he had moved from Baltimore with a company and then worked at Summit Credit Union for 4 years. And just by, you know, kind of learning on the job, he was able to get some tools and learn tools and resources for improving his credit rating. And then because he worked at the bank, he also knew about kind of first-time homebuyer programs were available through the Urban League and different organizations. So that's how he was able to make his first home purchase. However, it wasn't in Fitchburg. And so we kind of tried to well, what would bring you over? But I just thought it was really interesting how his life experience helped him get into home ownership, but that's a very rare trajectory. Like, not everybody has that information. And then you have the issue of having trust built in these different communities. How do you reach them to just kind of spread that message of what's available for flipping that narrative from being a predominantly renter-occupied community to a balance of owner-occupied and renter-occupied?
So taking from that, would you say then that a recommendation for getting people into housing might be that mortgage lenders can get involved in some kind of first-time home buyer seminars or credit repair seminars or something like that? I mean, it seems like that's an important piece of getting people into housing.
So I talked to a banker who really, I thought he was unique in his focus and the work that he did to help people get into homes. And so I think our recommendation would be that the city see if there's a way to partner with the lenders who are doing these unique and creative things to help people so that they can educate other lenders and people about how to access these resources. He also shared with me that many first-time home buyers can't afford the down payment, and in order to avoid PMA or even just get credit, they're using their parents as, they're using their credit, they're using their support. He also said there's a unique occurrence that's happened a number of times where parents will buy a condominium for their children to live in while they're at the university, and then they either come and live here or they sell it when the kids are done with school. And I thought, wow, that's interesting.
I get probably half a dozen calls like that a year.
Yeah, interesting.
I would just add, like, one idea I'd like to vet is working with like the social workers and making sure they're educated about the programs, because those are the people that have already established trust that potential home buyers are that have that relationship might go to first before they go to a mortgage lender or come to the city.
I think we want to be careful of loading up the city with work to do that's done by others. We want to make sure other people who do this work are referred the people, but if the city is aware that they're there and they provide a certain service, that's what's important. Some other interesting things. I spoke with a couple of police officers at the community, the resource fair, and I was surprised to hear that it's common occurrence that they will have 3 families living in a 2-bedroom apartment where one family each gets a bedroom and then the third family takes the living room, and that kind of crowding is happening in Fitchburg. So it's keeping your finger on the pulse of everything. It's a lot, but we'll look into what makes the most sense to direct the city to have an impact.
Michelle, do you have a comment? She had her hand up.
Go ahead, Michelle. I was going to call it. You're on.
Good morning, and ladies, thank you for going out deep into the community in that survey. And that individual that you probably talked to with Southern Credit Union was probably one of my ex-clients at the Urban League, without saying his name. But there are so many other barriers to not only just, homeowner. I hear you talking about the credit. I hear you talking about down payment assistance. I don't hear anything talking about the ones who do get those first-time home buyer loans and get their homes, how they keep these houses. I don't know if any of those studies look into that, because there are a lot of people who do get these houses, but they don't know how to keep them up. They don't know how to do the maintenance behind it. And within 4 to 5 years, they're losing these houses. So I love that all of these things are going, but is there any programs around helping people maintaining their homes? That's question 1. And question 2, well, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. Thank you, Lorraine, because Lorraine was the one who threw the survey in my face, which was good. I took it, I shared it with, some of my, yes, thumbs up. I shared it with a lot of my friends and families, co-workers, anybody within Fitchburg. So I hope that was very beneficial, and I'm loving to see the results. But I'm looking at exactly what I saw on the survey, what those results may be. You're looking at people who's paying $2,000, almost $3,000 in rent monthly. That is ridiculous, versus, putting that down towards a mortgage. How do you phase these people out of it? When people have low credit scores, how are they able to get that? So whatever that is, I love how it's working, and I am really one of those people who have been in there, and I'm also one of those individuals who work with a lot of individuals who's looking for those, those outlets. So I think this is great conversation, but what are we doing really for the results behind that? Lenders, what type of lenders? I'm loving that you mentioned Summit. Summit does a lot of that. And I'm surprised that the individual that you talked to didn't say about the program that they have. They have a great first-time home. So, and so does Park Bank.
That's great, thank you. Regarding the first question, we did hear a little bit about that. And one thing that we heard specifically from a woman who bought a condo and was almost consumed by the condo fees. So there's the education process and then the how do we help or make sure they know what they're getting themselves into before they actually do buy a home. I don't know that we can come up with a program or a set of recommendations that's going to help everyone, but we'll do the best to make sure that this is a comprehensive set of recommendations and we try to touch on helping people with the issues that we heard of, especially everything that you just mentioned. So I think it's multifaceted. Lorene asked us to share some of the things we heard, and I didn't bring my pages of interview notes, but I take old-fashioned handwritten notes, and I've got pages of yellow legal pad pages. I will say one of the developers said that Mike and Joyce are underpaid, and they do a phenomenal job. I also heard that if a realtor said to me if he had garden-style condos or duplexes, he could sell them all day long, and he said he could. I said, how many? And he said 2,500. So that's a lot, but there's a high demand for that out there. Also, I'm trying to think what other random. I mean, when you do 30 interviews, you hear a lot. So.
I just appreciate the hard work that you all have been doing and are doing and continue, because this is a lot, but this is information we also need. So I really appreciate you all, and I'm hoping everyone else do as well, because this is a lot of work. And I get that you guys probably don't sleep well at night doing these interviews and listening to these stories. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I wanted to just make one comment from last night. So at the committee of the whole, one of the council members asked if we just looked at the infill development that we have, how many houses could we get? And I thought it was a very interesting question, because I think we as staff have a lot of education to do with our council people, because I think they think just because we have, and not you, Joe, just because we have, over 1,000 acres of development in our urban service area, that we could put houses everywhere. And that's not the case. I mean, we have, the zoning plays an effect on what happens. We have to have willing sellers. We can't be forcing people to sell their land just because we want development and it's in the urban service area. So I felt like they kind of put you on the spot, but it also made me realize that we have a little bit of work to do as far as education. I think that's going to be key in this whole housing plan and whole housing processes, educating people on, why prices are the way they are and why we don't have, a lot of inventory and I mean, things Mike has been, sharing, we don't have lots. So, and just even when you talked about, those individual lots that are out there, getting those on the market. It's tough.
Right. And it's, to me, one of the biggest challenges to this housing crisis that we see in all the communities that we serve and in everything we read on LinkedIn or Nation, that are different resources. It's so expensive to build a new home that takes the affordability out of it for a large portion of the population. So we have to rely on homes that are either already built or we're looking at people needing to rent. So we have to make sure that existing housing stock is in good condition. We can't have a bunch of blighted homes, because we're hurting ourselves if we allow the existing housing stock to become deteriorated. So.
Okay, well, a couple closing comments here. Michelle, thank you for your good feedback. I think that will help us as we go forward. We thank the Housing Advisory Committee for their work too, and Lorraine hasn't gotten enough thanks for all of this. She has been shepherding us through this process for the last couple of months, so I want to give you a shout out, so thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then one last thing, as you come down with your recommendations, identify where it's got to be city staff or developers or bankers, so these folks will be able to prioritize how we move things forward. I think it'll help that way. It will also help our leaders, our city leaders, understand that Mike and Joyce and Lorraine can't do this. We got to get with the banks in town or whoever. So,
exactly.
Anyway, I think it's been a great project, and I think some of us got some new things as well as some things we know what's going on. So having a son who just bought a house, everything you mentioned, he was a first-time homeowner. Everything you mentioned, I've been complaining to Jenny about for 6 months. But anyway, it's all true. So we've got to figure out how we help both the next generation and the people who live here now. So thank you very much. Is there any other comments on the presentation or the project so far? Okay.
Oh, did we talk about the schedule?
She went over it. Yeah, she covered the schedule. So. Okay, if there's nothing else then, we will thank you folks, and we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the Economic Development Director and Committee report. So that's a mouthful. You're on, Mike and Joyce. Lorraine.
We'll let Lorraine start as far as any updates of things she's working on and focused on.
Sure. So one of the biggest things is the housing plan and really ensuring that this first phase is completed. The other things that I have been working on is looking at kind of procedures for both down payment assistance and land banking. So in the land banking area, we've been working with the Housing Advisory Committee and looking at some different RFPs of other municipalities, and then kind of going from there to determine a procedure that we'll have in place. As for down payment assistance, we're kind of looking at holding a funders forum in November. So it's still kind of being gathering information to kind of get it together. But tentatively, if you are available, I'm looking at November 13th from 1:30 to 3 o'clock at the library. And basically, it's kind of having lenders, anyone that would be, I guess, involved in the process, nonprofit organizations, for down payment assistance. And really, it's more of a conversation to kind of learn a little bit about what they do and their ideas that they can share regarding down payment assistance. So I'll definitely share more information as I get that together. And that's it for mine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would just add to that, both of those, the land bank and the down payment assistance, align with our buckets that we had in the housing memo that we worked on with the mayor. So we have $2 million identified for land banking / acquisition, and then $2.5 million that we could dedicate towards a down payment assistance program. So Lorraine continues to work to advance both of those kind of ideas and initiatives. So good stuff happening. Joyce, you want to go next?
Well, Lorraine's been working really hard. I've been waiting for the phone to ring with my feet up on the desk. But I have been also working on several things. I talked about the City in Motion document, just starting to get that organized. I have a thank you here from the Police Department to CETA for the community night out. So I'm going to just pass that along. There's a ribbon cutting at the pickleball courts on October 2nd. So I'm working with administration on getting out a press release and some media information. And then the biggest thing is we've got the business lunch coming up. I sent everybody a save the date. It is October 30th at the BTC from 11:15 until 1:15. I'm going to engage with all of you guys to see what you'd like to help out with. We're doing an entrepreneur-focused panel discussion this year, something a little different than we've done in the past. We have 4 unique businesses in Fitchburg that we're going to feature, and each one of them has some unique and interesting stories to tell. So watch for an invite that should be coming out next week. A shout out to the chamber for dropping everything that they're doing and working with us on getting out the invitation. And I've been doing just some Buxton work. We're continuing to be very proactive looking for that grocery store for the east side of Fitchburg. So just sent something out yesterday to kind of grab somebody's attention that may be looking to expand their business out this way. So we have a lot going on. I'm sure there's probably more things that I'm forgetting, but we're busy.
Okay, Mike, anything else?
Yes, lots of updates for you here. The Greenfield and South Stoner Prairie neighborhood plans were approved by the council on Tuesday night. So those are finally adopted. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the planning department will now shift to a major comp plan update and the zoning code rewrite. On the east side, the Article 3, which is the underlying kind of regulating plan for smart code on the west side of Highway 14 in uptown Fitchburg. There was an amendment submitted that's been approved by planning staff, and Tuesday of this week we received a preliminary plat that was submitted for the No Oaks Ranch Homes Bobberschmidt land, which is north of Lacey Road as you come off the interchange. We're excited about that coming forward because to Joyce's point about the grocery store on the east side, as we start to open up that land, that allows us to have more serious conversations with retail, commercial, and service businesses over there. So we're already engaging in some of those with some potential prospects and developers in that area. So that's huge for us. Also on the east side, the 5th and final edition of Terra Vesa has been submitted. That will bring us another 50 lots over there in Terra Vesa, so we want to keep that pipeline going. And then the Fawside property, the Cleanfill site between Highway MM and Highway 14, Mark Fairchild, who used to be on CETA, the Fairchild Development, he's got his own company now, is leading the initiative on that property. They're looking at 2 multifamily buildings, approximately 320 apartments, 34 single-family lots on the west side of the property, 20 townhome units that would be owner product, and then a senior development that would be continuum of living and care facility, approximately 123 units. It's an entity that's between Highway 14 and MM, north of Lacey Road on the Cleanfill site over there. So we're excited to see something come forward. Remember, we've got tax increment district number 11 there, and we would like to see a project kickoff at that site. A couple of things that should be coming in Uptown. Tomorrow is the closing date for UW Health LifePoint to acquire the lot for the physical rehabilitation hospital that will go in Uptown. That would be a 40-bed physical rehabilitation hospital. So closing tomorrow, and then we're hearing groundbreaking at the end of October. So this will be the first of what will be a major healthcare component and anchor in Uptown Fitchburg. The other project that we're working on, which is the other half of the lot that Avante is selling to LifePoint and UW Health, is going to be called the Lido Apartments, a 115-unit apartment building right at the roundabout of Lacey Road and East Sherrill. That one's going to be a really unique project because in Smart Code, you can't have parking in the first layer. You either need to have a residential or a business use. So it's going to be a 4-story building over 2 floors of structured parking. And then right at the roundabout, they're going to wrap the front of it with some townhome units. to screen the structured parking. And then on top of the parking deck will be kind of the amenity area. So there's going to be a pool and then kind of the fire pits and couches and things like that. So cool project. Hopefully they also will be our pilot program for our workforce housing within market rate, where 10% of the units in a market rate building would be for people that are at 60% or less of Dane County median income. So we're hoping to reach agreement with them on that.
How do you monitor that?
The property owner and management company would work with WIDA annually on a certification, WIDA with an H, and very cost effective. It would be $1,500 to set up the program for each building that we would engage with, and then it's $58 a unit for them to do the kind of that certification that they're meeting the program requirement. And then we'd be looking at a 15-year affordability period. We may go on 2 tracks on that one. One is if we provide upfront TIF assistance, like in an upfront deferred loan, then we would probably need to see a LURA, a land use restriction agreement there. If they're receiving other TIF assistance for like extraordinary costs, then we probably would just use that as kind of our factor to make sure that they were maintaining that affordability with the certification for that 15-year period. So we're working closely with Ellers, and then of course we've got Axley, engaged with the legal language that we'll need to add to our development agreement once we reach terms with a pilot project there.
Thank you.
Yep. We're really excited about that one because we can go everywhere in the city, with that, where we have kind of a TID district or even with our TID for housing dollars. So it allows us to expand the geographic reach of some new affordable housing units. So we're hoping we can get this program launched, and we've been having conversations with some other developers about that idea elsewhere in the city. I have a
question about that.
Sure.
How do you get the word out that part of that building is available to the group, to the various groups?
Sure.
How do people know that?
Yeah, I think we'll be working with the property owners and developers, as far as the marketing that they do. But we've talked about entities like the Urban League, the Dane County Housing Authority, which keeps the list of, where there are developments that are light tech, but also, that have affordable units. So we're going to need to work with a lot of the partners that Lorene is talking to and everything there. Once we know that we have, a building and a development, then we'll get into kind of that more proactive marketing, working with the private sector partner. Different people that we've talked to are really excited and kind of waiting for us to launch because they think, I've talked to some developers and they really appreciate the approach because it's a more private sector driven approach versus a kind of a mandate requirement, approach. So I think if we can come up with something, it can be replicated around the city. Then we had a meeting with Gorman & Company. So we're continuing to work with them. As you recall, they have approached us about an affordable workforce single-family home ownership proposal. So they're working around the city to try and identify a site where we could look to formulate kind of a pilot project for that program as well. So we're continuing to stay engaged with them. And then we've got a building along Verona Road in Anton. Used to be the Dry Bean, most recently Mad Power Yoga. Now is currently the Loxley Event Center. They've put that building up for sale via auction. So they're accepting bids through October 16th. There's a portal and a site out there. So we're looking to identify a developer partner. If you know of anybody that might be interested, that's in our tax increment district number 17 up there. We would like to drive a kind of redevelopment, multi-story mixed use. It's the future land use is business, so there would be some kind of business commercial use on the first floor, but we would like to see density and multifamily, market rate, or possibly senior affordable. So if you know of anybody that maybe would have interest, please let me know, and we'd be happy to share the link to the auction site, and we'd be happy to have conversations with any potential development partners. That's a good question. I don't know exactly the bus routes.
Just if it was on the bus line, if that building.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I know there's something over there, but it's not all day, every day, I don't think, like
Well, in addition, Mike, that business just got started, didn't it? I mean, there was a ribbon cutting, I think, 6 months ago, if I recall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
We'd be open to a hotel there, too.
Yes.
Okay.
Good point that Joyce said. I was going to mention that it could be just a straight up commercial use, as well at that site if there's somebody that's looking. So again, if you have any prospects for us, send them our way, because that's a critical corridor for us. After the 7-year Verona Road reconstruction, we've got buildings that are backwards as far as their orientation. And it's great to fill the buildings, and we like that, as is happening with the former A1 Furniture, most recently Little John's, where Blue Plate Catering is renovating that building. That's going to be their new headquarters, and then they're going to have a kind of 100-person capacity, a special event room for corporate events and weddings and things like that in there. But we'd also like to see some more catalytic type redevelopment where it makes sense, and there are opportunities. We've actually had some inquiries from kind of an ethnic, grocery store. Although we have had La Hispana now open in the former Quick Trip up there at Williamsburg Way, right at the roundabout. They're open and operating up in that former Quick Trip space, right up there to the north of this property. Then in the Oak Retail Building on McKee Road, there's a co-working space that's building out, so that'll be kind of one of the next tenants to go into that building. And then we're continuing to work with J.T. Klein on senior housing development. This would be on the west side of Nesbitt Road, just north of Gymfinity Gymnastics. The concept is 102 buildings, 100 market rate, and 80 affordable. In order to do that one, that will necessitate an amendment to tax increment district number 18. So, in fact, after this meeting this morning, we've got a meeting with J.T. Klein, and we've got them connected to Ellers for the TIF request there. So stay tuned on that one. Then we had a really nice ribbon cutting. I'm back on the east side here in Hartung Fields. Ned Hoyt, our partner, with his business called Ragtag Ventures. The Juniper ribbon cutting was on Friday, September 12th. Another really good quality multifamily development. They're already, I think they said, at 75% occupancy, over there. So I know some people kind of question, do we need all these apartments? And as soon as the building's open, we're already at like 70% occupancy, and they lease up very quickly. So we need inventory across all housing product and types to help get the market back into balance, from rental to ownership, and on the ownership end, not just single family, but also multifamily ownership product as much as we can get. The second building has already started. Juniper is the first of 3 over there, so some good development activity happening. Then we've got the minor comp plan amendment cycle closed on Monday, September 15th. There was one minor comp plan amendment submitted. It's on the west side of the city, over there in Jamestown Quarry, which is across from Super Target, where all the dirt is being moved. Corey Frank, who's got the Texas Wrap building under construction, where the parking's in the middle and the apartment units wrap around it, submitted a minor comp plan amendment with the developer over there to do a second Texas Wrap building on the northern end of that property, where along the front again we'll have Chick-fil-A, Chase Bank, Crew Car Wash, and McDonald's, hopefully the junior boxes in the middle, and then there would be a second Texas Wrap to the north of that is what the proposal. What's that?
More retail too?
Well, the junior boxes in the middle. Yeah, the Texas Wrap would just be straight up residential. Another probably, I would say, about 270 units, over there. So some good population density there. And then I just wanted to say something to a point that Joyce made during the housing survey data and about the vacant land there. One thing we all have been working on collectively here is trying to match up developers proactively with where we do have vacant land for residential purposes and everything. But, we could tell you a story, like we're out of lots in the Verona School District, right now after the build out of Stoner Prairie and Crescent Crossing. There's some land, that Payne and Dolan has that's in the urban service area that we would love to see coming forward right now, but for a variety of reasons, it's not coming forward, even though we've directed multiple kind of developers and kind of home builders to them. So there's some things that we don't always control, but we're strategically trying to get and match up, kind of prospects in all kinds of residential with where we do have vacant land that is zoned in the future land uses for residential. And then the last thing I would mention is, have we asked yet, Joyce, about our November, December meeting for CETA? We usually combine our November and December meeting because our meetings fall on Thanksgiving and Christmas week. So we usually look towards kind of an early December meeting. So watch for probably some communication from Joyce about what day and your availability to get that on the calendar. As you can tell, we've got a lot going on right now, so I think we're going to need to meet at that time just to keep things moving forward and to give updates.
I won't probably send anything out in the near future just because of the City in Motion launch. And if we would need to bring something to you guys, so I'm not going to do it right away. It's usually the first or second week in December. So if you can just maybe hold those dates or something, I'll let you know. If you're going to be gone, let me know. That would be really helpful. And then, Mike, could you do me a favor? Andy asked about the Department of Corrections at the last meeting. Mm-hmm. Can we just run them through how to get into the GIS, into the development planner?
Are you thinking I'm going to bring up on the screen?
Yeah, could you please?
Jeremy asked me if I was doing anything on the screen, and I told him no, so I don't know.
So I did follow up. I was updating Mike's development update, and the Department of Corrections has come before the Plan Commission for Architectural Design Review. So this is a kind of a handy tool if you guys are ever wondering what's going on here or there. So I'm going to put Mike on the spot.
So Joyce, this is the Lincoln Hills replacement that's closing to Milwaukee and coming
so
out
it's
here. Okay.
it's I can give you a little bit of background. It's about 102,000 square feet, which will house I believe 32 male inmates and 8 female inmates. And then it'll have all the services, and then they're also going to have a 14,000 square foot outbuilding for maintenance and storage. Looks like a cool design.
Yeah, I think they left. Well, there's Nick.
I just Googled City of Fitchburg GIS, and it came up, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I put Mike on the spot.
There you are. Oh, no, they're not up there, though.
Is it on the little monitors?
Yeah.
The little ones, yeah.
Yeah, I just Googled City of Fitchburg.
So can you see it on the small monitors there? So if you just go to our city webpage there, so fitchburgwi.gov, and as Jenny mentioned, you can just Google that too and add GIS and it'll show up. But if you go to our webpage and then scroll down to the bottom, under popular resources here, GIS maps, and then click on this.
Nope. This one. Sorry.
So you want the development application
Yep.
viewer? Okay.
That's what I wanted to show them.
So then you can zoom in down here to the dots.
Yeah, so it brings up all those little dots, and if you
Yeah.
click on the dot,
Yep.
it will show you what's out there.
So you click on, I clicked on the first dot here, and then if you click on the application materials in the upper left there, you can view, and then it'll pull up all of the application materials for that site and project. There you can kind of see the footprint here and the proximity to Highway 14.
So it's on the east side of the current, it's east of the current facility, correct?
I think, yeah. And how many rooms or beds?
32 male, 8 female.
Okay. Here you can see kind of the usage of the square footage and the look there.
Cool tool.
Yeah. So that's the development application viewer. But also on that GIS page, and this is something we've been, where did I go now? If you click on the Fitchburg GIS viewer, we've been kind of directing developers to use this as well. So if you click on the upper left here, the base map gallery, you can get over to the 2024 imagery. And then you can zoom in here. And then what's cool is these tools up here in the upper right. If you click on the fourth one from the right and go to planning and zoning on the drop down, if you click on urban service area, you see the red line get populated to show you where the urban service area is. But then if you zoom in on some specific parcels here, and then you can click on the existing zoning for that parcel, or you can look at what the future land use is. So this is a really helpful tool that we've been directing developers to use so they can look up that information. And then if you go to the fifth one from the right, you can even click on where is sanitary sewer and storm, and it starts to bring up all of that data specifically. So really, really helpful tool, and credit to Dakota and our IT department and planning and public works staff to have this available.
This is really, it would be nice, Mike, if we could have some type of next meeting, 10-minute overview of how to use it. Like you're going through it pretty quickly, but I didn't even, I mean, this is brand new, and this is very powerful.
Yeah.
There's even a layer that has our TID maps on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that one.
Well, it's open to the public too, which is cool. I mean, anybody.
So it's out there.
Yeah, so here's the TID districts, at a glance throughout the city. So just a very helpful resource
Stuff, and then I get stuff
available.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it then.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mike and Joyce? Hillary, I didn't forget you. You're not sitting up here with us, see? Okay, then we will move on to announcements. I'll start with the first one. Our next scheduled meeting is Thursday, October 23rd, and Joyce gave you a number of dates and times about things to be on the lookout for. She'll be sending out. Andy, do you have your hand up? Okay. All right, then I will entertain.
One quick
go ahead,
question.
Jen.
I have a TBD joint council and CETA meeting on October 22nd and a bunch of question marks. Why would I have put that in my calendar? Was there some discussion of some joint something or other?
Mike was a little premature on that last time.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you
what
can
date
take
was
that off
that?
your
I
calendar.
can take it off? Okay.
October 22nd?
Yeah, if you
okay.
have a hold on that,
Okay,
you can take it
Take it
off.
off.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else before we entertain a motion to adjourn? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Ms. Sanders. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Potts. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you to our guests this morning. We've got a lot on our plate, so we will move forward and support our city leaders here. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Signing off.